Well, I bought another ATV. Didn't really need it, but the price was right, so it's here. So I just got this back a while ago. It rained on the way home, and then it's been raining for the last hour, and now it's threatening to rain again, which is why it's all wet. But hopefully the rain will hold off just long enough for us to get this over with. So it's a 1989 Kawasaki Bayou 300. It's a KLF 300B. It's in pretty rough shape. The guy I got it from said it's been sitting for 5 years. He got it from another guy who's the guy who left it sitting. This thing has been run pretty hard, and there's quite a few problems. Obviously the seat is junk, which is no surprise. But the big thing I'm seeing is a lot of wiring hackery. So they replaced the ignition switch at some point with this rocker, which of course failed again. And then I guess this is the new switch, which is a rocker. I don't know if that actually works or not. Moving to the back here, you can see the wiring is even more hacked up. If you look back here, more cut wires, and just a random lawnmower solenoid that's been jammed into there. Also in the back here, you'll notice that the brakes are not connected. I also know that it needs bearings because it does this. There's play in the rear bearings, so it'll definitely need bearings. The biggest concern I have right now is the engine. I have not actually been able to turn this engine over. I don't even know if it's free or not. It could be seized up for all I know. So you can tell by the side here that somebody's had it open. I think they were probably running it without a battery and burned out a stator or something, but clearly they have put different bolts in, and then there's blue RTV. I don't believe they've messed with the top because I would expect they would have just jammed RTV into this cover. But it doesn't appear that's been done, so I don't think they messed with that. The starter motor, I don't know if you can see that, that's actually a gap from where they started to take the starter motor apart and then didn't get it back together properly, and it's also missing one of the bolts that holds it together. So the starter motor doesn't work, and the recoil has failed. I'm guessing that the rust on the cord has something to do with that. So I can't actually turn this engine over right now, and I haven't been able to do so yet. I don't know if this engine's actually any good or not. The guy I got it from said he was going to try to get it running until he went to try to pull it over, and it didn't work, and so he gave up. There is a bit of hope for this engine, however. If I go back here, now it's a little bit wet because it's been raining, but I'm just getting a little bit of soot in the exhaust pipe, which is good. That means that it's probably not burning massive quantities of oil, or at least it wasn't. When they burn lots of oil, usually the exhaust pipe will be full of an oily residue, and it's not, so that's good. Now the boot was on it when I got it. I pulled it off to take a look, but I don't know how well you can see in there, but the throat of the carburetor is actually really clean. There's not a bunch of dirt or anything built up in there, which is good. That means it wasn't ingesting dirt before it stopped running. Now this filter, it looks really badly degraded. That's because it is. That's what happens when they age. These marks though are from me earlier. You can see you touch it and the filter media just crumbles away because that's what happens when you don't oil them for 5 years. But it is intact, and it looks like it was in pretty good shape before it stopped running. So I'm hopeful that this engine is in good shape. So we're going to find out pretty soon here, but before it starts raining again, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pressure wash this whole thing because it's pretty dirty. It looks like it hasn't been cleaned in a long time. There's sand and grime and all sorts of stuff all over the place. So we're going to get all that off. We'll pull the recoil and see if we can turn the engine over. Ooh, that doesn't look so good. Moment of truth. Will it spin? It does! It's not locked up. Does it have compression? Yep, it's got compression. Awesome. Let's just see what's going on with this recoil. I have a feeling that the mechanism might just be rusted stuck. If that's the case, it should be an easy fix, and we can use it to turn the engine over. Yep, just as I suspected, the pawl is stuck. Okay, so we just need to free that up. Okay, this is going to take a little more effort, but all I got to do is free up this pawl and it should work again. So I got that pawl loosened up, so now when I pull the cord, it extends and will grab the starter basket. So it should work now. This will still need some cleanup before it goes back together for the final time, but for now it's enough to throw it on there and test it and see what the compression feels like. So the recoil is back on. And it does work. I can spin the engine over now. You can hear it blowing air out of the spark plug hole. Now I did feel the compression, and it feels like it's got pretty good compression, and as it turns out, the spark plug wasn't even tight. I was able to unscrew it by hand, so it wasn't even full compression. But this is what it looks like. I'll put you in macro. So this is a spark plug. It does have some junk in there, but I believe that's just foreign material, some leaves or stuff from bugs or something. Nothing from the engine itself though. The plug looks like it's in pretty good shape, and it's not overly sooty or oily, which is a good sign. That tells me it was probably running pretty good before it sat. So far this is all looking very good. Normally this is the part where I'd put the spark plug back in, pour some fuel down the carburetor and see if it would try to fire. But I'm certain that with all this wiring hackery, there's no way this spark plug is going to fire. So I'm going to have to get some of that sorted out first. Got my jump pack all connected. All I did was disconnect this switch and twist these wires together because I was guessing that was what's supposed to go to the ignition switch, and sure enough, we have a neutral light. So we are getting power. So now find out if this thing's got spark. It has spark. So the spark plug's back in. It does have oil in it. So we're going to pour some gas down the carburetor, see if we can get it to fire. No, this thing is hard to pull. Okay, so it was getting spark, but it wasn't getting very good spark. Turns out there's a really bad splice right here that wasn't flowing enough current. If I turned on the headlight, the neutral light would actually go out because it didn't have enough power. But now, I whittled it around enough, now it's got enough power to turn the headlight on. The spark is much stronger, so we'll try this again. Success! I just can't help myself. I gotta do it again. That's excellent. I'm really tired now though. The 300cc engine is not easy to pull over. So what we'll do now, we're going to take that carburetor off, we'll get it clean so it can run off the carburetor, and start working on the electrical stuff. Once we know that the engine runs good, then we're going to start looking at that electric starter, because that is something I want to get fixed. Yeah, that doesn't look too good. Looks like mud more than gear oil. Gear oil is not supposed to be brown. Shall we see what's in the gas tank? Huh, guess nothing. Or it's clogged up. Well, there's still stuff in the gas tank, but I think the reverse port is actually clogged up. See if we can't free that up a little bit. Yeah, we got some nasty junk in there. It smells really rank too. That's looking much better. Well, our carburetor is all cleaned up now. You can see, nice and shiny now. I did change the oil in the engine because it seemed to be over full and it was looking pretty nasty, so there may have been fuel in it. I decided to drain the gear oil out of the rear end because this diff breather tube was actually clogged with mud, and I thought there might be something nasty in there. If this thing runs, I want to ride it around a little bit, and I didn't want to run it around if it was low or the oil was nasty. It wasn't really that low, but the oil was pretty nasty, looked like mud. So I drained that out. It actually has ATF in it right now. My hope is that the detergents and the thinner fluid will help clean that up a bit. It will need to be flushed a few times though. We got our gas tank flushed out. Surprisingly, the petcock seems to be functioning just fine. The petcock on the other Bayou I have does not work all right. It doesn't shut the fuel flow off, but this one does. It was clogged in the tank a little bit. We were able to get that cleared up. We got some new fuel line and an upgraded fuel filter to catch any contaminants that might try to make their way through. I did have to go ahead and just temporarily replace those junky splices. So I have them over here. These are the splices that were heating up and failing. They're just twisted together and taped. It's absolutely terrible way to make a splice. This isn't permanent. It will have to be changed later. There definitely needs to be a fuse in here, but the previous owners took that out a long time ago. And as of right now, I can't turn the lights on. Something's shorting out up here. But it's enough for the ignition system to work. So now we're going to get to find out if this thing will run properly and drive. Well, I'd be lying if I told you it was the sketchiest thing I've ever ridden, but it's pretty high up there. For the time being, that honor stays with Rat Quad, but not by much. Only because Rat Quad is every bit as sketchy as this one, but it's also insanely loud and smokes like a chimney. Now this one still has a number of issues. We're still having carburetor issues. I only cleaned this carburetor and put it back together. I did not replace any parts, and these carburetors are known for having issues with the needle valve in them, and this one is not regulating the fuel level in the float bowl. If I open the valve all the way, it will just flood out completely. It's also acting like it's running lean though. The RPMs are hanging really badly when you let off. Of course, I haven't really adjusted anything properly. I just kind of got it good enough so I could ride. It doesn't seem to want to run when the boot is on, even though the air filter has been removed. So I'll need to, at the bare minimum, replace that needle valve, check the float. We'll probably replace the gasket in here to make sure that it's not sucking in air between the carburetor and the engine. But besides that, the engine actually runs phenomenally well, all things considered. It did make a little bit of noise at the beginning there, which was a little concerning, but after I rode it around a bit, the noise completely disappeared. It's got plenty of power, and here's something I'm very excited about. Look at that. No oily residue. This thing doesn't smoke. I'm very, very happy about that. We do have a lot of gear oil puking out of the bearing. Not really any out of this side, but there's a lot out of this side. Can't really say I'm surprised by that because the bearings are so badly gone. But it rides, it doesn't handle very well, but it shifts through all the gears. The one thing I have noticed is that I don't know that the knob for reverse is working. It does go into reverse, but you don't seem to have to turn that knob. So I guess the lockout might be broken, not really sure. How does it handle? It feels like it's trying to kill you. That's how it handles. It wants to pull very badly to that side. Can't say I'm surprised by that. If you look at the front, notice this bar is very badly bent because somebody hit it on this side pretty hard, which is kind of odd because I've seen that exact same damage on this exact same side, both on Rat Quad, which is the same model, and on a number of other ATVs I've seen for sale. And then the shock is rubbing against the A-arm, so we'll have to bend that out, correct the alignment in the front, and that should help a bit. It also doesn't help that the rear wheel bearings are shot, and so the wheels are just kind of flopping around back there. That's definitely causing a problem. And the various rear suspension components held together by rebar might also have something to do with it. We will definitely need to look at the electrical system more. We're going to need a proper fuse, fix all of this stuff because the light can only be used intermittently, and if it shorts out and I turn it on, it will burn up the electrical system. But yeah, so far things are going really, really well. We've obviously got a fair few more things to do, but I think when it's all done, this will be a nice little four-wheeler. So that's where we're going to end this off. If you'd like to see more videos like this, subscribe. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, leave them down below.